Welcome back, everyone, and a very good afternoon. I hope you had a refreshing break from the previous session. We now move on to our second session for the day, making social science engaging and concept driven, an area that is really important to fostering critical thinking and relevance in the curriculum. This session will focus on innovative methods to make social science not only more engaging but also conceptually driven, helping students develop a deeper understanding of the subject and its real world applications. Our speaker for this session is someone who truly exemplifies innovation in education, Ms. Sridevi. She is the driving force behind MedHunts, an academic consulting firm, and has served as a trainer for CBSE and Khan Academy. Her authorship of educational materials for both Macmillan and Eschan, including consultation for the Grammar Way series, showcases her deep commitment to quality learning experiences. But before I move on to our speaker, let's have a look at some of the housekeeping rules. So, all the participants will be muted throughout the session. Please ensure that you have a pen and paper so that you can note down all the important information. The chat box will be open during the Q&A round and as requested by the speaker. To receive your e-certificate, you need to fill out the feedback form which will be sent on your registered email address after the session completes. So, without further delay, let's welcome Ms. Sri Devi for the session. Ma'am, over to you.
Hi everyone. Oh, how is the day? And just before we have a holiday tomorrow, we all are gathered here to refresh ourselves, to just enhance our knowledge. So I hope we all have a wonderful time together. And I'm so glad you are putting things in the chat. Yes, a very good afternoon to you. And it's wonderful to see you all here as we gather today to talk about the engagement that is expected in social science and to make it concept driven. Now, before we begin this, let's think of two key words here: engaging, concept driven. Please remember, most of our classes are teacher-centric classrooms. Classrooms where teacher is the guru, the jnani, the sage on stage, isn't it? And the children are sitting on the benches, crushed together, and just listening with their ears open to only what we are saying. They're not participants in the class. They're not engaged. They're just an audience listening to us. Why is it that when you watch a movie, you're still an audience, remember? You're a spectator and an audience. You do not forget the movie. Though you sit for 3 hours, we are not bored and we don't forget what we have seen even after a long time. But our children, 45 minutes of our class, and in the class itself, when we are recapping, we're asking them questions, they forget. The reason is they're not engaged. They're not participating in the teaching learning process. Teaching is happening, no doubt. You prepare well. We work very hard to learn and teach them. But the word is teach. We get into classrooms to teach. We don't care whether the child learns or not. Our classrooms, therefore, are not engaging. Please write why if you agree with me in the chat. We are good teachers, no doubt, but we are teachers. We are teachers. We are teachers who are teaching, expecting to teach, working very hard to teach. Most teachers I know have laryngitis because they've spoken so much in the class. They've explained so much in the class, right? But classrooms are not our space. Classrooms are not for teachers. Classrooms are the spaces owned by children for learning. And learning can only happen when they are engaged. For all subjects, this is true, especially for social science, it is more true. The reason being, social science is a beautiful subject that has so much of stories interwoven into it, that has so much of thought process going into it, that has so much of concept interwoven with the content. And that is where children need to participate, to be engaged. So today, let's look at this. Are you all ready? Yes? Okay. Let's begin. On your mark, get set, go. Let's begin. So let's look at this UNESCO's 4 pillars of learning, right? Dolores' report has given us these 4. The pillars of education are learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. And these pillars of education align more to social science. What is social science? Or what is social studies? What is social? Especially in the 21st century, what is social? Social is being able to live with people, being able to live in society, being able to understand what is happening in society, being able to bring that change into society, right? That is social. Of course, now we are calling it a science because it's very scientific in its principles and thought processes. So the UNESCO 4 principles are learning to know. Children should know what is happening around them, why is it happening, and what is it a result of. So children should be able to know that. In every subject they should know, but in social science, they need to know more because they also need to know the society around them. How has history changed them for today? Or how can they use the lessons from history to change the world for a better place, right? So learning to know. The next is learning to do. Learning to do. Whatever they've learned, they need to use it practically. In the Bloom's taxonomy, this is the 3rd taxonomy. This is the application. Learning to do. Social science is not, oh, that fat, thick books. Open it. Learn the dates by heart. Learn the facts by heart. What are the reasons for the failure of the United Nations? 1, 2, 3, 4. What led to the revolt of 1857? 1, 2, 3, 4. What are the causes? It's not. Rote memorization has no place in social science. They need to feel it sensually with all the senses as a story that happened, what all happened and why did it happen? And then how do they use it for today? Like I said, learning to do with the knowledge. The 3rd one is learning to live together. Today, you see the world is on the brink of another war. If you look at Russia and Ukraine, look at Palestine and Israel, look at so many other countries that are trying to invade each other or on the verge of invasion. We need to learn to live together, and only in the social science classroom can you as teachers teach your children how to live together. And then learning to be. Learning to be is the self-discovery. Who am I? What am I? Why am I like this? Right from early men till today, it's only in social science that we discover not only the physical changes that come in, but also the thought process change. What happened in Renaissance that we are like this today? What happened in the Nalanda University for Chinese scholars to come and learn and take back this knowledge to their country? How has India helped the world? And how I, as an individual, can help the world or make a difference in this world? Learning to be. And this is for all subjects, as I said, but more so for social science. So please remember these 4 pillars of knowledge. And are we using this in our classroom? As social teachers, yes, Anne Babu has written, understand society and human relations. And unless I understand myself, I will not be able to understand the society. So This is the pillar for social sciences. Let's go to the next. I'll share a link with all of you in the chat. Please play this game. This is a problem-solving thing. How can you, as teachers of social science, do this, right? I'm also clicking on this. I'll just share it on the tab, and I want you all to try and play this game. How do we gamify the classrooms? How do you make social science interesting for children to be able to enjoy the class instead of saying, oh my God, social, I have to learn all the dates. I have to learn the points by heart. I have to put it in bullet points. Let them be people who are getting transacted in the classroom. So if you see here, it's a problem solving. Someone is littering and these children have to find a problem. So can you imagine you have think, pair, share classroom where children are deciding on what are the steps I need. And then you say, put down your steps. For example, let's say the problem is solved. But before the problem is solved, if I'm doing it a backtracking, how do you do it? So these are the kind of games that children are really, really going to enjoy doing or thinking in the classroom. Because teacher speaking, half of your brain is gone. They don't even open up the brain to listen to the teacher. But when they're actively participating, let's say an online game that you have created like this. This is a game that I have created for all of you. If we do that, then children would be very, very happy in the classroom and engaged. So if you have all completed it, please send a yes, and we will go on to the next slide. Do you think children will be engaged in such a classroom? Can I have the chat, please? Do you think the children will be engaged in such a classroom? Okay. You're saying yes. Janobi, Sushri, Shabnam. Very good. Yes. So how do you make your classes engaging? Let the children take ownership of their learning. Let them say, today we are going to do this and we are going to enjoy it because ma'am has designed this for us to do. So we are talking about what is concept-based classrooms or learning. So please understand, concept-based learning means concepts drive the learning. You are giving attention, paying more attention to the concept of the chapter rather than the facts and facts and facts and facts. Okay? Focuses on big ideas of importance that are relevant and transferable. Please remember these two words. Relevance. How relevant is this to our children? How am I making it relevant? Many of the children in our classrooms, and as they grow as adults, they will say, I don't know why I studied history. I don't know why I studied political science. I'm a computer scientist today, but I don't know why I studied. So unless you make it relevant, unless you make them think that you can transfer this knowledge to lead your life, it's not worth it. So the concept is the big ideas that they need to take away from this for a lifetime. Next is involves the so what, where students apply their learning and in meaningful, authentic ways. Something is happening in the world. They think, yes, in that group discussion, we all had discussed this. That's a eureka moment for me. That learning, I can use it here. Whether I'm 50 or 70, whatever I've learned in the social science classroom, whatever I have discussed is what I'm using today. Next is promotes critical thinking and problem solving. Today, if you look at society, we need people who've looked at the past, learned from it, and used those learnings to lead this life in a more tangible, more experiential way where they help others. Next, involves the students as active participants in their learning. They are not passive only audience. They're very actively participating and contributing to that knowledge. Unfolds in response to students, right? They own up, as I said. They are the ones who say that, yes, these are the things I will do for this concept today. Next, promotes connections across the curriculum. Today, we can't speak about standalone subjects. If you're looking at social science, it needs to take in science. It needs to take in data, which they can only learn in math. It needs very good language for them to be impactful, which they can take either from their mother tongue or from English, if they're in English medium schools. So we need to not look at social as one subject in isolation or silos, but a group of subjects which is getting interconnected one with the other through the medium of social science. It embeds students' ideas, theories, questions, and interests. Okay? It brings in a child has an idea. Why can't we solve this problem? For example, they're littering the class. They're throwing all their papers and pencil scrapes and everything in the class. It's a problem to be solved. So they all sit together and say, what can we do to solve this? Maybe a role play, maybe an actual cleaning up of the class, but they need to take ownership of that, right? Then it promotes curiosity, wonderment, and the desire to understand. I want to know what Chanakya would have said about this. Or I want to know how Ashoka's Dhamma would have dealt with this problem today. Or what would Akbar and Birbal have discussed if they were in this situation today? Or what would King Krishnadevaraya have said? You know, all these intelligent kings who've left a repository of knowledge behind for all of us to use. We don't have to do the same mistakes that they have done. We can learn from their mistakes and use it for today, right? Only if we teach our children that. It focuses on the why and how of learning. Children who do not know why they are learning that particular thing will never be able to learn. Only if they know, if I learn this, I can use it in my life. If I learn this, I can help someone else lead a better life. Then definitely they would want to learn. So let us have a concept-driven learning environment in our classes. And how do we go about that? Right? This is an educational approach that focuses on understanding and applying. Please remember these two words. If you know Bloom's taxonomy, we go from knowledge to understanding, application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. Now, creation is the highest form. What is creation? You're a problem solver, or you are creating something that can help solve the problems of society. Anything is creation. To reach that highest level, you need to go the 6 steps, the 5 steps before you reach the 6th. So concept-driven learning means you focus on understanding and application of the key concepts rather than memorizing isolated facts. Knowledge today is at the click of a button. But how do we use and apply this knowledge and analyze what is happening? Is for the teacher to teach the children to use their brain. How do you use your children? How do you make them think? The cognitive aspect. How do you make them think? How do you make them feel? You know, we talk in Bloom's, we talk about the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the physical domain, right? So the head, the heart, and the hand. And this mostly becomes impactful through social science. This method promotes critical thinking, problem solving, and the ability to transfer knowledge across different contexts. We already discussed this. It's an integral part of modern education system. And I don't know how many of us could call ourselves modern teachers. If I look at my classroom, it is exactly like the classroom I was in 30 to 40 years ago when I studied. What is the difference that has come? Maybe a technology, a digital board additional, but My teacher did not change. She's still standing at the front of the classroom. She is still talking, and I am still sitting like this in my classroom. So, we cannot afford to have our modern students getting the old education. We need a modern education system which aims to equip students with deeper understanding and skills that are relevant in real life scenarios. Understanding and skills that are relevant in real world scenario. Please remember that. They need to apply this knowledge every day. Now, what are the key features? Number one, emphasis on concepts over facts. Please understand, they can find the facts. It's there in the textbook. Why would you want to repeat that fact that is there in the textbook? Talk of the concept. Concepts are broad, transferable. And by transfer, it means from the brain to the heart, to the hand. It's transferable for us to do. That apply across multiple disciplines whereas facts are specific pieces of information. Facts can be found everywhere. It's a concept that they need to get it, keep it in their brain forever, and use it as and when they require. 2, concept-driven learning encourages students to grasp the underlying principles that govern facts. Why? Why did this become a fact? If Galileo had not asked, why are we saying that the earth is stationary and the sun is going round? Why? No, the sun is stationary and the earth is going round. Unless that question of why comes in, the world will not progress. And we need the world to progress, right? Next, examples. Now, can any of you write an example of how you will use the concept-driven knowledge in your class? How will you use children not to read the facts, but to use it? Yes. How will you use this? How will you use it in your classroom? For example, you are teaching maps. What is the concept of map that you want to teach them? Can any of you tell me? How? Let's say you want, for example, today, I want to find out where the Battle of Plassey happened, right? I just have to look or visualize the map in front of me and then understand that this is where the battle happened. But how did it happen? Where is the border from where the enemy could have come? How closer is it? These are questions that I, as a student, if you give me a map, I need to look at all these, think of the questions and find answers for that. You cannot just give me the textbook and say, learn all these points by heart and write it in the exam in bullet points. No. I need to know why. Why did the battle have to happen in the first place? So many things that we can think of. So if the first one is emphasis on concepts over facts, please remember this. The second is development of critical thinking, problem solving, right? So when we focus on concepts, students learn to approach problems from multiple angles and derive creative solutions. One of the students in the class can think of it, let's say, littering the class. So one of the students in the class can think of how many dustbins should I place for children to not move about and litter the class, but they can drop it. Or I can't buy too many dustbins. So someone else might say, no, we can't have so many dustbins in the whole class. We need to find another way. Maybe we could have these big pipes, PVC pipes connected to every desk leading to one dustbin so that children can put all the trash in it. Different thoughts, right? Problem solving from multiple angles. Application. Instead of rote learning, students engage in activities that require them to apply concepts to new and diverse situations. To new and diverse situations. Is that clear? Sorry about that. To new and diverse situations. Please remember that instead of rote learning, students engage in activities that do apply the concept. The next, third one is interdisciplinary approach. We already discussed this. Integration of subjects. Concept-driven learning often integrates multiple subjects. As I said, math, science, English, or any other language, statistics, isn't it? Highlighting the interconnectedness of knowledge. For example, a project on climate change may involve science. Geography, which is the place where you see a lot of climate change happening, and social studies. So it's multidisciplinary, it's integration of subjects. This approach helps students see the bigger picture, fostering a more comprehensive understanding of how different fields of knowledge interact. Okay, it helps them see the bigger picture, not social studies is a subject and I study it only in the social science period. No. Even, for example, I'm sitting in class in a science session, in a science class, and the teacher is talking about, let's say, greenhouse gases. As a society, how can we create awareness about reduce, reuse, isn't it? And recycle, right? So how do I reduce the emission of greenhouse gases? As I'm sitting in the science class, I'm using the knowledge I have from social science and thinking. Data. From math, I can say how many people or how much, what is contributing to the greenhouse gases and how much. If I reduce it by even a 0.01%, what can happen? Right? So all these integration, a holistic learning, which does not happen only in one class, but happens in all the classes together. And that is what we will have to look at. So interdisciplinary approach. Now, what are the benefits of concept-based learning? What are the benefits? We said this is called concept-based learning, but what is the benefit? Enhanced understanding and retention. Isn't it? There is an old Chinese saying, give me a fish and I eat for a day. Teach me to fish and I eat for a lifetime. So if you're at the front of teaching the children about some concept, okay, later they will only remember a part of it. But if you make them do it on their own, discuss about this, or do some project based on it, or do a role play based on it, it is enhanced understanding and retention. So deep learning. Students gain a deeper understanding of subjects, which leads to better retention and recall. Also, long-term benefits. What happens? It prepares students for advanced studies. Tomorrow, they are going on to do their undergraduate and their post-graduation in this subject, whatever they learned in school. For example, I've done my Bachelor of Arts in History and Economics and Political Science, let's say. Right? What I studied in school should have helped me, but it didn't because I didn't remember anything that I had studied in school. When I went on to do my undergrad in these subjects, everything was Latin and Greek. But if only we had done it in a concept-based way, I would have remembered and it would have been so easy for me to do well in college, right? Not only advanced studies, but real-world applications, we already spoke, where the understanding concepts is more valuable than merely remembering facts. Please remember this. Next benefit, sorry, we already discussed this. Next is curriculum design, okay? Designing curriculum around themes helps integrate various subjects. So when you're planning for the next year, now today all of us are sitting here because you're closing this year and you're starting the next year. So this is the right time for you to start thinking, what can I do for my class to be dealing with concepts rather than facts? How can my children be engaged in such a way that they're taking ownership of their learning? How can I do this? So design curriculum around themes and ideas to help them integrate various subjects. Flexible syllabus. Now, don't say my school will not allow me to make it flexible. It is when you're planning for next year, as a department, you sit down and say, these are the things where I can have a role play, I can have a nukkad natak, I can have poster making, I can have, let's say, a quiz, I can have a game on word wall. What all can you do? How can you have a, let's say, a think, pair, share, or the round robin method? Various ways in which your children are doing in the classroom. Not you speaking, but your children are doing in the classroom. Next, what are the teaching strategies that you can employ to make it interesting? Inquiry-based learning. All of us have heard and heard and heard, but I'm reiterating this. Encouraging students to ask questions. But why? Is what I love in my classroom. When the classroom is silent, it's like a graveyard. We don't want the silence of the graveyard in the classrooms. We want teachers and children to be talking and communicating and thinking aloud. They could be right, they could be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. But if you don't speak out that wrong, it's still there in your mind. And nobody is going to correct that wrong in your mind. So let your classrooms be places where children are talking, listening, speaking, telling each other what are they thinking about this concept, how are they going to do this research, right? So it promotes deeper engagement with concepts. Children can research more, give them bigger books, encyclopedias, or even take them to the computer lab maybe once a month where they can sit and do research. Collaborative projects. You can have 3 or 4 children doing a project, discussing about it, exploring concepts from different perspectives. 2 minds are always better than 1. So imagine 4 children sitting together and discussing. They're collaborating. What are they learning? Again, they're learning some social skills, which is agree, disagree, or think of some other's point of view, some other person's perspective, right? Accepting, compromising, giving others an opportunity, or taking the lead myself. These are so many skills that they can learn in collaboration. Assessment methods. Formative assessments, all of us know. Regular, informal assessments track understanding. For example, when you're doing formative assessments, it doesn't necessarily have to be pen and paper. It can be quizzes. It can be oral. It can be a role play that they do as well, or a paper presentation that they can do, or poster making. It can also be in their groups, each one is presenting to each other, right? So formative assessment, all of us know. How many of us use in the classroom other than pen and paper? Yes, when the school mandates it, just to put that tick mark for the school to be happy, we do once or twice. But inherently, from inside, because I want my children to learn concepts, how many times do I do this? When it is not mandated by the school, how do I do this? Please think of this. Performance tasks. Tasks that require application of concepts in real-world scenarios. For example, you could give a case study. You could have a thought process. Let's say this is happening. How will you solve it? How will you see that this is better than what it was? So many problems. All of us are so fond of talking about things which do not change in this country. Ask your children to look at how they can. Let's say you are a one-day prime minister of this country. What is the first thing you would focus on? Or you are the chief minister of the state. What is it that you're going to do? Or you're the governor and the chief minister has asked you to do something which you're not very happy doing. What is the rule that applies which you can use to not do it? So many case studies can be given to these children for them to think and apply the knowledge they have about the concept in what they're thinking. So all these help. Let's see how can we make assessments more interesting. I'm putting in the chat for you. How can we make the assessments more interesting? I'm sharing it in the chat with all of you. You can, I'll share it with you. I'll share screen and I will show you this, but you can also use it yourself, right? Can you see? For example, you put a picture and you put this question: what is the Sumerian economy? And children are thinking, okay, what is it? This could be a pre-learning of the concept where you want them to think, right? What is irrigation if you're teaching that? Any concept, I just made it random, right? What did the Sumerians invent for transport? How did they move about? What is uniform system of writing, right? I'm just giving you an idea. Randomly, I have taken, what is the city-state area ruled by? Let's say, what are ziggurats? Or what is the system of writing called? Anything. What I am saying is, make it interesting. The children should always be, oh, social class. What is ma'am going to do? What exciting things are we going to learn in this class today? That is the motivation that you need to give the children for them to look forward to your next class. So please remember, make it as interesting and engaging as possible so that children do not get bored. They're engaged in your classroom and they are happy. Okay. Now, what are the challenges that could come? It's so easy to say. I am sitting here again like a guru or a jnani and I'm saying, make it concept-based classroom. Make it an engaging classroom. And you're thinking, yes, if you're in the classroom, you will understand. You can speak so nicely sitting here, right? So what are the challenges to having this in place? Number one is teacher training, and we're getting trained today as well as later. But please remember, the onus is not only on your school or publishers like S. Chand to train you. The world, the internet is a huge resource for us to learn so much, right? Please do your research. Make an effort to use concept-driven methodologies and effectively integrate them into your teaching practice. Please understand you're busy, we know, but Shiv Khera says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you want to fail as teachers, and what is failing as teachers? When your child does not get excited about your class, when your child does not get excited or use the knowledge that he has gained in this class in real life, then it's a worthless effort on our side. So don't be busy being busy. See that you are busy learning bigger, better, and newer things. Research. Make an effort to use concept-driven methodologies, effectively integrate them into your teaching strategies. Please do that. So teacher training is not only at the end of the year or beginning of the year, but also throughout the year. Maybe decide twice a week, I will sit online for an hour, not more. If you have more time, all the more good things can happen. But minimum, it's not that in a week you don't have 2 hours, right? I will sit online and find some ways to teach this concept better, to make it student-centric classroom. You can do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Next, student adjustment. The child has become so used to being an audience. It's like they come to a concert and they're only listening, keeping their eyes open because the teacher will catch them sleeping. But the mind has slept off. Only 40%, research shows that only 40% of what you teach in the classroom enters the child's mind. The rest, 60% is out. So students have become used to that system. For them to adjust now, not easy. So they will struggle with this shift But not only students, you are also going to struggle. Together we can. Make it so interesting that the children are not struggling as much. The unlearning and relearning should happen for both of us. Then provide additional support and research to help. Ask them, why don't you do this? Why don't you research more? Like I said, maybe once a month you go to the computer lab for a social class and then you ask them to research. If you have very big computer labs, many computer labs, you could do it even once a week. Resource availability. Prior preparation is the key. Please remember, teachers, you need to be prepared for your classrooms. Not the room, sorry, for the class, for students. I am a fellow of the Fulbright Association. When I went to the US, I had to shadow one of the teachers. And I used to go to her class every day for 4 periods. Nothing I saw her doing in the class. And I used to think, what is she doing? She's eating in the class, she's doing this, she's doing that, but she's not teaching. And I was thinking, oh my God, in India, the principal would just throw me out of this class if I behaved. But in the 5 months that I was in the class, I saw behind the scene, she was working so hard. She would research on small sticky notes. She would write questions. And before the children would come, she would stick it on their tables, on their desks, for them to look at the prompt and research on it. Or she would take chart papers and cut it. They used to have this roll. I had never seen that in India then. This was 2010. She would cut it into charts and put it in different places in the classroom. And on the chairs, she would say, these are the group 1, group 2, group 3. She would put the plaques. And children would immediately come, see where they belong to, and go and sit in that place where the chart was placed, and they all would discuss and write down the points for and against, or pros and cons, or even make posters and awareness posters or things, right? Then I realized, and then these children would write down all that. She would take so much time to correct what they would write. Attention to detail. This was a student-centric classroom. This was where children were taking control of their learning. Teacher was just prompting. She was the driver, helping the children travel. She didn't go the journey and leave the children behind. She was driving it, but the children were the passengers who were taking part in what was happening. Please understand that prior preparation is the key, and time allocation. Now, I've been a teacher like all of you, so I know. The question is, where is the time? I have only these many periods, and in these periods, I have to teach so many. I have to make question papers. I have to do this. Again, as I said, where there's a will, there's a way. 15, 20 minutes additional time, planning time you spend, you will get so much ideas, and that you can do so well in the classroom. Now, if you're reading the textbook and explaining line by line every fact that is there, you cannot complete your syllabus. But if you're sitting on the concept, discussing the concept, giving children the onus, have a flipped classroom where they prepare prior to your class and come back, your syllabus is going to just get completed so fast. And you will have so much more time to do so many more activities. Some of the strategies that you could use: storytelling and narrative approach. Okay, storytelling. The more you have things which are told like a story, as I said, we can sit for 3 hours in a movie theater. If you tell stories or make children role play stories, be it anything, even in economics, you could have so much of storytelling and narration happening, right? Children would enjoy. Instead of teaching about facts of the Indian freedom movement, narrate it as a story, as a sacrifice and ultimate success. I'm sure most of you, if you have done history in BA, you would have studied Bipan Chandra's India Struggle for Freedom, for Independence, right? Bipan Chandra's book is so famous because all are very short stories about each freedom movement. And I remember even today, though it's almost 32 years since I studied that, because of the way he has narrated it. And I bought this book for my son because I wanted him to learn Indian history as a story. He's an engineer, but I wanted him to know the history of our country, and he did it through the story method, right? Visual aids and media. There's so much online, if you only go and look. So leverage videos, use maps. I already said, for example, if you're talking about a battle, if you're talking about the climate, why is that place like that? Why is the climate of that place like that? What is happening? How is the wind traveling from south, hitting the Himalayas, coming back? All these things are what they will see on the map. Images, infographics, they will help students visualize abstract concepts. Example, show the map of India during the Mauryan Empire or a video on the cultural diversity of India, right? Seeing is believing. The more they see, the more they understand. Role play and simulations. For example, students can simulate a panchayat meeting or act out historical events like the Quit India movement, right? Yes, for Independence Day we do, and some of us do it in the class as a role play, but how many times in a year do we role play? How many situations in the class do we role play? Do you do tableaus? Do you do only dialogues, or do you do audio drama? For example, with sound effects. They're outside the class, outside the door, but you're listening. The children are listening to the audio drama happening. Things like that, right? It's very important for us to do that. Cross-disciplinary connections, okay? Link social science topic to their lives. For example, connect the study of natural resources with discussion on pollution, or the study of rural and urban divides with current issues like migration. Especially during the COVID, we saw what migration it was. People working in different parts of the country needed to go back to their own places. Then we realize how many people are migrating to different places. This is a chapter, of course, right? So how do you connect this? How do you use math to find out this? How do you look at science? How are they immigrating? How are they adjusting to the climate, or how are they adjusting to the lifestyles? The next, inquiry-based learning, open-ended questions. Now, what is the difference between close-ended questions and open-ended questions? Most of our classes have close-ended questions. Do you think Akbar believed in the Deen-e-Ilahi? Yes or no? But how do you think Akbar came to the conclusion that these tenets of Deen-e-Ilahi were the best? They took all the best points from different religions. Then they'll think, how, why? Why did he take? Why did he need to take? Right? So ask open-ended questions. If you ask questions with auxiliary verbs like isama was, were, do, does, did, do you like it? Do you think it is right? They can say yes or no. But if you ask with why, how, then they have to think. These are open-ended questions that help them explore concepts and develop their own understanding. For example, how do you think the Indian independence movement would have been different without Mahatma Gandhi's leadership? Remember, Mahatma Gandhi was reluctant to come into the Indian political scenario after he came back from South Africa, right? But slowly, when he was attending the meetings of the Congress party taking place, without realizing, he was looking at the problems that were happening, and he could not stop from reacting. And without knowing, he came into it, he was pulled into it in such a way that he became the father of our nation, and we call him the Mahatma, right? Mahatma, the great man. So ask children questions like this. Why do you think? How do you think? Now, let me play a video for you. Give me a moment. I will share again with the... Please watch this video.
There are two ways to think about learning. A traditional perspective sees students as empty vessels. Students wait for the teacher to point out the facts and ideas they should collect in their jars. Students hold all the facts in their heads until they dump them out to prove they have retained them. But there's another way to look at learning. In concept-based learning, students begin not as empty vessels, but instead with their own pre-existing ideas, similar to a stone waiting to be sculpted. As we learn, we chisel away at our ideas until they become more sophisticated, clear, precise, complex, and accurate. At the end, we have a profound, well-thought-out idea of our own construction. In the second way of learning, the students are doing the work and benefiting from it, not the teacher. But how do you help students discover and refine these ideas? The secret is simple. Just 2 words: uncover and transfer. To help students uncover an idea, start with an abstract question. If you're studying the concept of ecosystems, for example, we might start with a question like, what is the relationship between human actions and ecosystems? Have students share their initial thoughts. One might say, people can hurt the environment. That's a good start, but it's not complete. Now, investigate a specific context that illustrates that conceptual relationship. For example, deforestation in the Amazon. From this, students understand that human actions can directly devastate an ecosystem and contribute to the loss of certain species. Transfer is the next step of the process. Introduce a different example that will add a more nuanced understanding than they had before. For example, next you might investigate the effects humans have on oceans. Students will learn that human waste can end up in oceans and harm sea life, also threatening species. This is more of an indirect impact, adding even more nuance and complexity to their understanding. To assess students' understanding of the conceptual relationship, let's transfer again to the Arctic Ocean and have students hypothesize about the impact of global temperatures. Throughout this process of uncovering conceptual relationships and transferring to new situations, students should start to recognize a pattern. Rather than seeing smaller individual ecosystems, students understand the Earth as an entire giant system where human actions may have a great impact. As you introduce more and more examples, students' understanding grows bigger, deeper, and more complex. This deep understanding of how the world works and the ability to transfer ideas to new contexts is an essential skill that allows students to become creators, problem solvers, and innovators.
So, as you and I, as teachers, what is the biggest thing that we can achieve? If children become creators, they become innovators, they become people who can make a difference in other people's life for the country and the world, then that is the value of education. And that is what you and I would have created. So with this, I end, but I would want questions that you have or anything that you would want to ask me. How do we look at it?
All right. So, all the participants, chat box is open for the question and answer. You can drop in your questions in the chat box, and Ms. Devi is going to take that. Ma'am, actually, while you were presenting, there was this one question in between.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read it out. It was, does student-centric approach work well in Indian education system?
In fact, Indian education system was purely student-centric, right? If you look at our ancient days, the Gurukul system, where lot of Socratic method was happening. The guru would throw a question at the students, and students would think and think and think. Remember, when Dronacharya took these children to shoot, to check their shooting capability and skill, and that he put that bird on the tree, or there was a bird on the tree, he didn't say, okay, there is a bird on the tree, I want you to shoot the eye. That is what I would have done. What did Dronacharya say? He called each one and said, look up and see and tell me what you see. Each one said, I see leaves, I see this, I see that. Only Arjuna said, I see an eye. And Dronacharya said, shoot it, right? Now, what would all of us have done? Okay, you come, now shoot. And the bird would have flown, right? And we would not have understood what we were doing. We are giving instructions. We are not allowing them to think. So India is the first country in the world which brought in student-centered learning, which brought in skill-based learning. If you look at, again, let me go back to the Mahabharata, the last year when they had to stay incognito, what helped them? All the skills that they had learned at Dronacharya's Gurukul helped them. Bhima, right? Loved to eat. And I'm sure in the Gurukul, he was the one who was going into the kitchen all the time to see what they're cooking, sniffing it, looking at what all are they putting. And that knowledge, or maybe he even helped in the kitchen, that knowledge helped him become a cook. Right? Similarly, Arjuna was skilling himself so much. And that is how it helped him become the dancer. Each of us in our classrooms today, the unlearning, first thing is unlearn all the methods that you know. Only look at how can I make my children become participative in this classroom. It is, don't think it's difficult. That is the easiest thing. You as a teacher are happily sitting in the class and children are doing the work. It's a decentralized classroom where children, each group is doing different things. And lo and behold, final presentations, your chapter is done. Right? It's easier to do. Only thing is, we have this ego. And I did. You won't believe me, when first student-centric classrooms came in and we had to write lesson plans, I was mocking my principal, saying that why is she paying me if she doesn't want me to do it? Right? But once we started implementing, and it took me a year to come out of that mode, once we started implementing, I could see my children improve so much, and my work was behind the scenes. Research, find out, ask them more, tell them to do more. The more I pushed, the more people, the more students enjoyed my class. You know, children, I'm not saying this to show off, but with a lot of humility, if my session was there, if my class was there, children would not take off. They would come to the school just because that day they had my class and the class was going to be happy. And with a lot of humility, I'm saying this. And this is what I would want our classrooms to be. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll take one more question. Uh, a participant says, ma'am, our learners are actually science and math centered learners, and for that, an environment is created by someone, maybe parents or anybody else. How can we make students social science centered as well?
Very good. Good question. Yes. In India, we are more into technical education. Children who take up engineering and medicine are supposed to be more intelligent than those who want to opt for the humanities. But again, these children who are doing math and science, do you not think they enjoy playing video games? Do you not think they enjoy going for the movies? Are they not making time to do that? If your class is interesting, the children are going to spend time. Children always take out the book from the bag to study of the teacher they love the most. I did it as a student, and my children did it when I was a teacher. Right? So it is you. Don't find excuses that math and science. I agree it is there. But if you are so good that they can't stop thinking of you when they take their bag, when they come to school, you are going to make that change. Every year that I taught, I would have 3-4 children saying that, ma'am, I am going to take humanities. The way you're talking about it, you know, I would talk about history, about political science, about the French Revolution, about Theodore Roosevelt, right? About John F. Kennedy, about our prime ministers and presidents, the way they would say, ma'am, we are so inspired. We want to go for humanities. And I would say, my task is done. Right? Math and science is needed, but math and science is the logic. Social science is what society needs today. Please understand that. And you are responsible for that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So that was the last question for the day. We are actually receiving a lot of positive feedback in the chat box regarding the session, that it was informative, it was really enriching, and the ideas that you shared were really practical based. So thank you all the participants for being such an enthusiastic and thoughtful audience throughout the day. I hope both the session left you inspired and equipped with all the practical strategies that you could use in order to make social science more engaging and empowering for the students. A special thank to our speaker for the day, Ms. Sridevi, for engaging in insightful session. Your practical ideas and dynamic approach have added immense value to our today's learning experience. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so
And
much for
all
having
the
me.
Thank you. And all the participants, this is just the beginning of a shared journey. Do not forget to join us again on 3rd May for another day of enriching sessions. And all the participants, you will be receiving your feedback form on your registered email ID by Monday. After submitting the feedback form, you will be receiving your certificates on your registered email address only. So do not forget to check your inbox, your spam as well for that email. But till then, take care and happy learning. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you, Akriti, and thank you, Eschan, for having me. And more than everything, on a Saturday, when you're preparing for a Sunday and that relaxation after a hard week, being with me was the best thing. Thank you so much for sacrificing your 1 hour to be with us. This shows you're very serious about teaching and you want to make a difference in the children's life. Stay blessed. Have a wonderful Sunday, and thank you so much.